grow up with supervision. We grew up with sound, empty living rooms, TV glow, a turntable needles dropping, school books on the kitchen table, front doors shutting. That was what Gen X was like in the 70s. Divorce, rising, people worked. For millions of us, the house was empty until 5:30. Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. I'm Steve Patterson. Today I'm joined as usual by my esteemed brother, Troy, who is working on his skills of introduction. How you doing today, Troy?
Doing just dandy.
Doing just dandy. All right. For those that have been here before, that's great. For those that have been here before, we are brothers. We're both born in 1966, but we're stepbrothers, and our parents were married shortly thereafter. We really don't remember not being brothers. We both went to kindergarten together, and we've lived together at various times, though we did split. I went to my mom's house. He stayed with my dad and that family. Blah, blah, blah. Long story. Welcome back. If you're back as a subscriber, thank you very much for coming back. If you're new here, welcome. There's plenty of playlists around for backstory. But what we're going to do today is we're going to pick up on our music series. We did a 3-part series earlier where we talked about our own personal development as far as music goes, roughly up until about 1985, since we were born early in the Gen X experience. That was pretty much our wheelhouse of expertise as far as looking at that era, if that's the way to look at that. But in that, it was just about us and how we developed, because we're also musicians. We play guitar. There's lots of stuff about that in the music playlist that you'll see on our site. But today we're going to follow the same basic eras that we talked about, but we're going to do it from a broad sort of way of looking at it for all Gen X, not just the things that really caught our attention, though we will be commenting on, we will be commenting on those songs and things or whatever that really influenced us. So Troy, before we get going, we're just going to basically talk about the early 70s at this point. Right when we first became cognizant of the world, hearing songs, things like that, maybe up to, maybe around 5th grade-ish, whatever. Do you have a song that you remember as like one of the first songs that was really a big song for you that had some impact other than maybe being one of the bands that you ended up following or whatever, but just some song that you think of? When I think of my earliest childhood, that song comes to mind.
Yeah, I think Carly Simon, You're So Vain. I think that's the first song I heard that was just made me pay attention to music.
Absolutely. Carly Simon, strong stuff. And a side story on that, I remember a couple of years ago, I heard her live album that was recorded, I guess, within the last 10 years. And to hear her belt that, there's a video on YouTube. Perhaps we'll link it below in the description. It's live of her just playing like in Cape Cod. Beautiful, still going strong. But yeah, I too remember that one. And what's funny is if I had to say one, and I would have had another one in mind, but also Carly Simon about that same time. Remember Anticipation?
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, that was a great one.
But here's a cheat on that. How do you remember knowing the tune?
Man, that's a good question.
Do you want to know?
I think. What's that?
I'm kind of embarrassed to admit this, but my memory of that was that I heard it and then learned, or somehow I came into the knowingness of what the song was actually about. But my earliest memory of the tune itself was from the Heinz ketchup commercial, where it was Heinz is so patient, and it showed the ketchup bottle upside down, slowly dripping out.
Commercial.
Right?
Yeah.
And I was like, Heinz is so patient. And then later, there's a couple of songs like that, as far as ones that we thought that's what they were saying versus, what they were saying. Like, for instance, do you recall about this same time, and so we're getting sidetracked already, that's the nature of the beast here, but do you remember when we liked when Eric Clapton came out with I Shot the Sheriff, though we did not know that was the name? Do you remember what we thought they were saying?
I do.
What is that?
I shock a
I got
sherry.
a Sherry. Right. Do you also remember that that's how we thought it was? I shock a Sherry. But then I remember I went to my mom's house. See, but what happened was we were living in a small town in southern Illinois. My mother went elsewhere. And so my dad, and they stayed there. And that's where he met Troy's mom. And so we lived in this little tiny town. There's also a story about that on the channel. But and so I went off to the big city, to Chicago, for like, I don't know, maybe the summer or 2 weeks, how it went, however it was the day. And there I learned that it was I shot the sheriff. And I remember I came back, and if you deny this, I don't care. But I came back with this knowledge to Southern Illinois that it's actually not I shot the sherry, it's I shot the sheriff. And you and Greg, brother Greg, yes. And by the way,
we laughed at you.
Yes, you laughed at me. And I was going to say, brother Greg, the drummer, that's our follower, our subscriber friend. Maybe you remember that too. But yeah.
I did. I remember thinking you were an idiot.
Exactly. I shot the sherry. So what I would like to do real fast, though, before we move on, again, we're testing out our abilities to share things here. Troy, we should see on this part of the screen here in a second pop up. This is on Wikipedia, was it 1973 Billboard Top 100. So this is when we were both 8 years old, or at least in our 8th year, whatever. And some of you Gen X in our period remember this. Those that were later, no. Or about the same time, probably not. But you have to be pretty early to really remember this as your earliest memories anyway, if they were still being like brand new songs. And so over here, I see the screen. But look at this top 10. I mean, tie a yellow ribbon around the yellow tree. I mean, this literally happened. Do you remember them doing that all around the country?
I do.
I remember it. I don't know why it happened. Maybe it was associated with some other thing that might have been going on. Maybe who knows? Maybe it was later on, even around the hostages situation or something. But I remember that people were actually doing that. I remember seeing that on the news.
I remember seeing it too. Yeah.
Right. Maybe my 8-year-old mind was interpreting early MTV, which didn't exist for another, at this point, 7 years. I guess MTV, I think 80. But anyway, huge. Now this next one is a funny one. Bad Leroy Brown. This is something I came back from Chicago with, thinking that was all cool. And I remember my dad, your dad, as far as stepdad. I remember when Jim Croce, he didn't like the fact that I liked that song for whatever reason. It was causing turbulence at home, whatever. I brought this big city energy back. When Jim Croce died, I remember my dad said to me that it serves him right for using the Lord's name in vain. I was like, yes. I was like facepalm before I knew what facepalm meant. I mean, it was like, damn. I remember that. I was like,
I don't remember him saying the Lord's name in vain in the song.
Bad as no, maybe it wasn't Lord's name. It was damn. It was damn.
Yeah, the whole damn town.
Whole damn town. Right. It was that. Maybe it was just the fact that he had profanity. Whatever it was, the gist of it was that it serves him right for speaking that way.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And they wonder where the rebel comes from. And so anyway, and then look, here we go. Number 3. Y'all see it still. Killing Me Softly. Remember that?
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
Yep.
Yes, I do.
You know what the funny thing about it is? The year before that, she had another #1 song. I'm not going to mention it here, but you can go Google it. And it was #1 in the country. I clicked on it. I'd never heard it in my life. Get back to that if we have to later. But Paul McCartney, obviously, anything he does, Let's Get It On from Marvin Gaye, that's still being played in every party going on in the world. Why Me? I'm not familiar with this, though I love
I don't remember that one at all.
Why Me? From Chris Christopherson?
No, I don't remember that one.
Right. Oh my gosh. I don't believe I've not had my sound here the whole time. I hope that's working correctly. Okay, well, as long as you all heard me, sorry about that. My microphone was over there. Yeah, Chris Christopherson, obviously, Me and Bobby McGee, the original author of that, and Sunday Morning Coming Down, that Cash made so big, and there's probably others I'm not thinking of. Crocodile Rock, of course. We'll go round in circles. Remember that?
I used to think they were saying Willie go round in circles. Like a guy named Willie. Willie's going around in circles.
I think Willie might be coming up later. We'll see. But also, here we go. There's You're So Vain, number 9.
Yep. I remember that
one in the morning. Nights went out. I mean, come on. The night the lights went out in Georgia. I mean, these are songs that are like timeless. This is getting up there with those Reading and Dock of the Bay type material.
That Night's Light Went Out in Georgia's first song I ever listened to and paid attention to the lyrics. Well, wow, this is kind of sad.
I know. Somebody gets totally screwed over.
Yeah.
it was like early version of Mississippi Burning, that movie with Gene Hackman.
Yeah.
And there's Brother Louie of Delta Dawn. There you go.
Remember we talked about John King. He always sang Delta Dawn all the time.
Exactly. I remember listening to that at our grandma's house in Neoga, Illinois, is the town that we're really from. Neoga. I remember her house. I was sitting there listening to the 45 of that. They had the 45. I used to listen to it over and over. Or at least I remember coming out of that living room. Frankenstein. Are you kidding me? Edgar Winter roaring already? Gee, I didn't find out about this guy for another several years, but wow. I mean, obviously I didn't know about anything, but that's pretty impressive to see that at number 16. That's getting pretty heavy for the Billboard Top 100, especially when you look down at You Are Sunshine of My Life. Now there's Little Willie, remember that? And Drift Away. Jeez. This is just a sick year. Do you remember how we used to think, music in the 70s sucked? I don't know where that came from.
I don't know either.
I don't know. I mean, maybe we're somehow associating disco. I don't even remember. But I remember that was a thing.
That's probably what it is. We thought disco sucks, but I mean.
Exactly. But this is the 70s. Sunshine of My Life. Look at that. We have, we're an American band. Superstition. I mean, gee whiz. I don't know how much. Love Train and Shambhala. There, look at this. We talked about Shambhala also. And yes, I already challenged myself. I'm going to play that here at some point on the guitar. But Danny's song. Is that the one from the movie of Brian Piccolo?
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, the Chicago Bears. Yeah, right. And then look at Dancing in the Moonlight, the Monster Mash. And then Dancing in the Moonlight, still to this day, still played. And still nobody knows what's going on with the douching in the night or whatever. But I don't know. What do they say there? Any idea?
What song are we on?
We're on. Remember? Sorry, I'm getting too crazy. Remember Dancing in the Moonlight? Dancing in the Moonlight. Yeah. Everybody was feeling good and bright. Oh wait, I guess it's anyway. There's one that has a weird song. What is it?
It's
like the douche in the
Manfred Mann's Earth Band.
I'm thinking of Blinded by the Light.
That's what it is. Blinded by the Light. Yep.
Right.
Wrapped up like a douche.
Right. Right. I'm getting confused on these things. But all right. Midnight Train to Georgia. Now we're right back in that 3 category with Dock of the Bay and Cover the Rolling Stones, Smoke on the Water. Every guitar player up until about 1995 was allowed to play this song. And, just keep going. Let's see, what was the last one? Papa was Rolling Stone. Was 100. I mean, come on. In any normal decade, in any normal year, that'd be like a top song. I mean, It Never Rains in Southern California is 98, and we still hear that.
Oh man, Free Ride's still one of my favorite ones.
Right, Steer It Up. No, that's Johnny Nash. Well, Johnny Nash, the original, but that's the song Bob Marley did. But Money from Fosh. Look at this, Pink Floyd. Oh wait, 92. This is just an insane year. Listen, Ramblin' Man. Oh my gosh. Okay, folks, we're done gushing over 1973 here, but wow.
Man, what a great year, man.
That was something else. I'll tell you, I think that's what really did it, because the first sounds that we heard when we got home wasn't a parent, it was the radio. You know, we just had us and time, and then, you know, AM radio came along, and that was kind of like, okay, kind of like cartoons. And then FM came along, and it's like, okay, now we're at the movies. The real life stuff starts. And so when FM radio sort of came along, Troy, do you remember when we started listening to FM?
That would have been 78 or 79, maybe. It wasn't until Phoenix, 78. I mean, Tucson, we still listen to 99 AM KTKT.
KTKT, right. That was listening to
WLS Chicago.
And then the Loop. And then
Yeah,
there was another one. Was WXRT? Is that the Loop? I don't know. One of them. There was another one in Chicago. Maybe there wasn't, but it was the Loop, which was coming on strong. That was the one that you wanted, that shirt with the big loop on it, just a black. It was kind of like my Fender guitar shirt.
Well, you can still people. You see people wearing Loop shirts still.
Really?
I
today?
saw a guy like last week. He had a Loop shirt on. Whoa!
Wow! You should have said, "Check out the channel."
You know what that even means?
Yeah. Well, I'm sure they know what it means now, but it's probably changed over the years. But anyway, WLS was AM WLS, and you could hear that all across Illinois. But in Chicago, they had the FN version of it, which is basically the same as the AM, with some music, most of, you know, blah, blah, depending on time of day. But when the Loop came along, then we started having live simulcasts. We had King Biscuit Flower Hour, things like that. I mean, do you remember King Biscuit Flower Hour?
Every Sunday night, had to listen to it. Didn't care who was on it.
No kidding. It did not matter, just to hear a live audience and this happening. And you've heard these songs, or at least a couple of them. There's probably a chance that the first one or two that you'd probably recognize. Either way, it was magical.
Remember who was on after King Biscuit? It was Dr. Demento, the Dr. Demento show. Remember that guy?
Yes, I do remember Dr. Demento, but now we're
crazy,
getting
man.
Right. This is a whole nother. Dr. Demento reads us down to like Rocky Horror Picture Show and all the other places we go sort of sideways from here. But
we can.
Yes, right. I guess they all wind up in like David Letterman later, but or whatever. But so anyway, I'm going to switch over now. Let's take a look at 1978 and see what in 78 when FM came along. We were hearing. And I said, as we said, we had our own thing going on, but here we go. Look at that. The Bee Gees right off the bat. Here we go. Saturday Night Fever, Star Wars, all this is going on. Shadow Dancing, Night Fever, You Light Me Up, Staying Alive. I want to kiss you all over. How deep is your love? Look at that. When we say 70s sucked, this is what we're talking about, but we're not we're not talking about it at this point realistically. At the time, we were just, I was there. I was at Comiskey Park, and whenever it was that Steve Dahl, had us bring out all the albums for the Disco Sucks Burning at Steve.
Oh, I remember when he did that.
Right.
That went nationwide.
I know. I was at the one that started it. I was right there, and I remember we did all that. And then there was another time we did something similar with Cat Stevens albums. But remember that when he went whatever, so
yeah,
he went not us. That's all that counts. We don't have to talk about it, right? Right. He went anyway. He went sideways, and so sideways. But anyway, the fact of the matter is, though, looking back on it now, when I hear these songs, it takes me to the exact same happy Gen X 70s childhood memories as any other song. I could listen to Chip Away at the Stone off live bootleg from Aerosmith, or I could listen to, Kiss Alive, 100,000 Years, or Peter Chris's drum solo, or whatever, Michael Schenker and UFO, whatever, although that's a little later. But still, when I think of this, when I hear this stuff, it reminds me of all the places that I went, all the things that were fun. Because the fact of the matter is, when, like, for instance, my parents had lots of parties at the house, they weren't listening to the songs I just mentioned. They were listening to these things. And it's the energy of the time and the fun of the time and the just sort of carefree of the time that these songs still, for me, hold a hell of a lot of value. And I no longer think disco sucks. I think disco was an interesting experience and experiment. It didn't last long. It grew into other things, kind of like rock grew into whatever grunge became. But I mean, I would listen to a soundtrack. I'd put on the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack today and be just fine.
Oh, I can listen to disco now. I like it.
You know who I also like a lot? This is crazy. Gen X! Barry Manilow. Listen to that live Barry Manilow album. His raw musicianship and just showmanship and the songs are good. I mean, it's just like, exactly. All of those, and I write the songs. I mean, seriously, I don't know how that happened, but they're attached now to the good memories that I have of Gen X childhood, not just the crap that came along opinionated along the way. If you sort of separate that opinion from it and just see it for what it was fun and exciting. And if you don't agree with me, that's fine. You probably have songs I'm never can cotton to, as they say in the South. But Troy, any closing thoughts on disco, or our brief one and only ever Disco Sucks love fest with disco?
We got right there in front of us Miss You by the Rolling Stones. Greg actually bought the extended version that was a disco song.
Right, and look at this. If we get exactly, Miss You as a disco song. At the other end of this, we have the other abomination, which was Walk This Way as a rap song. Oh. We'll get to that later. That's a few years down the road as things continue to deteriorate. But anyway, but look at this. We do have a little bit of the rock world still going. We have Lay Down Sally. We have Miss You, as you just pointed out. Billy Joel obviously will always be in the sort of rock-ish category, and certainly somebody I think that all of us, unless you just have something out about his songs. I mean, I lived outside of New York City for a couple of years, way back a million years ago in the last century, and they loved it there, and that sort of brings me back to that time. So I love Billy Joel. Love Is Like Oxygen. Wow, this is kind of transitional, wouldn't you say? This almost begins to sound like the early new wave type sound.
Yeah, Love Is Like Oxygen. They had that. Yeah, it was a crazy song.
Right, it has that sort of Stand By Me sort of background, but then this crazy right, and then this Love Is Like, there's this sort of disjointed thing, which gives it this sort of quirkiness, which is, I guess, to me anyway, some of the early parts of the new wave thing was sort of, the quirks that changed it or made it different. Queen, there we go. Queen, We'll Rock You, blah, blah. All right, we're going long on this. Oh, but there we go. We have Foreigner, Rod Stewart. So we do have them as we're going down, but Carly Simon, a song we haven't heard. Maybe you have. But let me stop this share. I think that was, as far as FM songs, that was pretty much it. I mean, other than the ones that we talked about in our music series, I mean, for us, when we heard Christine 16 at this time, or Calling Dr. Love prior to that, or whichever, or hearing, Detroit Rock City or something like that earlier was something else. But I don't know. That whole move to FM, I think, was pretty strong. Now, what happened next? And yeah, we are moving quite kind of fast here because I want to keep moving, is we went into this heavy metal era. So we're going to let's jump now to, and we're going further in this one than I thought we would, but why not? Let's take it another from 78 to say 83. So Iron Maiden has arrived now. They're no longer the band that people like myself wearing a Killers shirt in 82 were getting made fun of. Why are you wearing a cartoon on your shirt? You're supposed to be listening to Michael Schenker and UFO, dumbass. And I'm like, have you heard of these guys? Man, they're really good. You should hear this. Anyway, boom, here comes Number of the Beast. There's that Eddie on the cover, and there's 666 and Vincent Price and Run of the Hills. And suddenly the whole world loves Iron Maiden. and it was acceptable, and that's called 1983. So I'm going to share this 1983 top 100. So while we were raging in the we were sort of in a transitional phase with heavy metal at that point. We were still in it, but we were on our way out within a year or two. But look, this is what everybody else was listening to, including us. But look at the songs, all still going, Every Breath You Take, which is the ultimate stalker song. Have you ever noticed that?
When I was growing up, I thought it was a love song, and then but when I listened to it close, I'm like, yeah, that's stalker.
Kind of creepy. Every move I make, I mean, is that
I'll
you,
be watching
Zuckerberg?
you.
Exactly. It's the Google. Okay. So then we got Billie Jean, of course. Just, I mean, ridiculous. That song, I just think of that song and I think of Moonwalking and Michael Jackson. I mean, it's just, I mean, that is a definitive song for him. Although there's another bigger one coming a little bit later, as we all know. But Billie Jean's one, boom, sort of really did that. I think maybe there's another one before it, but that's what really hit with me. We're in the MTV era now. We're no longer FM. MTV's been out for 3 years, so that's taken as far as people are used to it. But as we go down, we have Down Under. Everybody knows that. Beat It, another one. I mean, this Man Eater. She's a maniac. Any of these, Troy, you want to comment on? Come on, Eileen. See, now, Come on, Eileen is, again, I'm not trying to make some lame connection, but Come on, Eileen, and look at Love Is Like Oxygen. You sort of see that progression, how you get that sort of hoppy sort of singing with this basic background.
Come on, Eileen. I thought that was Dixie's Midnight, not Dexie's.
Yeah,
That's
and
crazy.
that might have been a lame explanation. I'll elaborate that.
On Golden Earrings, Twilight Zone, because I mean, Rush, Iron Maiden, and Golden Earring all had a song called Twilight Zone about the same, within the same 5 years.
Well, the good news is Iron Maiden at least didn't put words to it.
So, right.
Wasn't that was the instrumental, yeah.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, the Rush version, and then, this one here. Our Love Is in Jeopardy, Electric Avenue. Let's just go down to the bottom. Let's see, what is the last one? Fall in Love with Me, Breaking Up His Heart. Oh, wow. Yeah, it gets rough. It gets rough when you get down here.
This is about the era I got into metal, and so all this was too pop for me. This was MTV stuff.
I think that's part of the thing with MTV. When MTV came along, and whether it did it directly or otherwise, it sort of divided music into camps. Now you had certain kinds of things you listen to, whereas before it was just like, okay, here everything is. What do you like? But now we had different ways of looking at it. And by the time we get to 1983, we're looking at a top 100 that you and I don't recognize. And this is, that some people might recognize, but probably nobody recognizes all of it because they had divided us into camps. This is like early how we are today in the United States as it applies to the music scene. And so for Gen X, I think this was the beginning of the fracturing, I think, of our approach to music in general, because we no longer had this sort of unified push. We were now compartmentalized, marketed, and divided, and turned into fad material.
Yeah. Yeah, then Madonna came out, who was a product of MTV. That once she came out, that kind of ruined MTV. Right there at the beginning. She wouldn't have been anything without MTV. And at that time, if you weren't on MTV, you weren't really going to be anybody. And that's why I liked heavy metal a lot.
Right. I mean, in those days, if you did not have a video in 1980 or 1981 and you're a band, it was going to be that much more hard for you to get, really promoted because they wanted to have a video. You had to be on MTV. And if you didn't, you might as well have been in 1965.
Yeah, I remember seeing Well, they didn't call them videos, they called them promotional films before MTV, and seeing Breaking the Law by Judas Priest on MTV, like, what is this?
Mhm.
Remember the first time
That's
you
an
saw, like, Judas Priest on VH1, and you're like, "Uh-oh, what happened?"
Yeah, the first time you saw him on it's the first time you saw a video on MTV versus the first time maybe in 1982 or 83 you saw a simulcast on your box. We had a pirated box, the kind with it was like a black box, had a red dot on it, light that came on. It got HBO for us, and that's how I saw the Rolling Stones play one of their final tours back in like 1980, 82 or whatever. It was from like Canada, and seeing that versus the Start Me Up video, night and day. And Start Me
Yeah.
Up video, garbage at that point. Then it was, at least they were still a real band. But that quickly faded because, I mean, even live performance today is a thing of past. And I don't want to jump too forward to commentary today, but yeah, that was really that was the first chip in the stone.
Well, they had the Rolling Stones did that "Waiting on a Friend" song. That was such a horrible video,
Exactly.
and made me, really not like the Rolling Stones much anymore.
Well, at some
Well,
point,
I
I'm going
did
to
like
talk
them.
about. Well, everybody liked them. No, if there's a person out there in the world that doesn't like the Rolling Stones, I don't know. Don't visit America. That's I don't know. I'm speaking on behalf of all of us. Just stay home. Stay home. At least that.
Stay
There's got to be one song. Come on, I mean, something's got to work. Just look at Keith Richards. I mean, the guy is not aged in 80 years. So he looks as young as he ever did. But I did want to say something in closing here. As we get out of this extremely long, as usual, conversation, at some point, I'm going to have to divulge to the community here that there was a complete other half of my life that has been going on now for 30 years that does not involve any of this heavy metal, that only involves one band in particular, really, and that's the Grateful Dead. And that changed for me by 1990, and that's still the path pretty much where I'm at today, though I still love my metal and I have my full act set up and I play all the time and all that thing. But really, that was a space that I moved into. And the reason I mentioned this is because you're talking about videos and how silly they were. When the Grateful Dead finally started making videos, finally started making albums again in the late 80s, man, their videos, it's just like, come on. I mean,
Such a
it's a
gray.
nice version of, yeah, it's like, well, that one's kind of different, but the other ones on that album, maybe
That
we'll
was
take a
goofy.
look at them. I'll send a letter to Grateful Dead and say, man, I followed you guys around for a million years. Can I just show a video, please? See if I get permission. But man, that was like, you gotta be freaking kidding me. Don't talk about a fail. But it didn't matter there because no deadheads had a TV to begin with, so it didn't matter, So anyway, that's all we got for this. We started out in one direction, but as usual, we went off and really sort of went through the entire era. I wanted to just talk about the one, but I think maybe in the next part of this, we'll talk about the venues in which we heard this other than live. Like, I talked about parties and things like that, but we also have to talk about the whole dynamics of, getting a boombox, getting a stereo, getting a Walkman. We touched on some of these things, but I really want to drill down into it. And I'd also like to go back and look through some catalogs like we've done. Another thing that I want us to do is I'm going to look for some old versions of Guitar Center catalogs and flyers from the early 80s. See if we can get like a flyer from Guitar Center in 1983 and see what they're selling and talk about that. That sound exciting, Troy?
Sounds exciting.
Sounds exciting. Everybody out there, please, if you love this content, be sure to like and subscribe. That helps the algorithm. That helps other people be able to join the conversation, because we really want this to be a conversation with you about our experiences as Gen X. Granted, we do tend to stay on the younger side. I want to improve upon that. Maybe we could have a Gen X person out there that's reply, give us some ideas that's maybe a little younger. If you're born in 1980, we don't want to exclude you by any measure, but by that time, I mean, we were sort of past the youthful years, so to speak. Also, down the line, we're going to start talking about what it's like to be Gen X today and some of the things that have happened since, say, Y2K or the 90s. But between now and then, the best way to find out about that or to let us know about that is to comment below, ask us, ring that bell, put that bell on there in case we go live. We plan to go live at least twice a week. Who knows what that's going to be about? That's the best part. But other than that, thank you. We've had a lot of growth. We thank all of you for that. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Let us know. Keep in touch, and we'll see you next time, man.